always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Tuesday, November 12th, 2024. My name is Sam Seder. This is the five-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Trump goes full NeoConned. Names Marco Rubio his Secretary of State. And Florida Representative Mike Waltz, a wealthy military contractor, his national security advisor. Meanwhile, Israel misses U.S. deadline to boost humanitarian aid to Gaza as Israeli leadership calls for annexation of the West Bank. Trump appoints Kristi Noem to be head of the Department of Homeland Security.
The guard dog of America.
Gallego wins Arizona Senate, likely to be 53-47, with only that Pennsylvania race to be resolved, though it looks like it will probably go to McCormick over Casey. Meanwhile, in the Senate, the Republican Senate Majority Leader Hunger Games are to be resolved tomorrow. Republicans likely to have at least a 6-seat majority in the House. That's a trifecta, quadfecta if you include the Supreme Court. The U.S. House to punt government shutdown deadline into Trump's term. Lee Zeldin, longtime opponent of climate regulation, to head the Environmental Protection Agency. Haiti's airport shuts down amid gang violence. Donald Trump Jr. joins a VC firm investing in companies his dad is sure to promote. But so far, no dick pics. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining us. It is
Newsday Tuesday.
Newsday Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. It's another new era. A really sort of, it's going to be a depressing one of sorts, but there's going to be a lot of opportunities for hopefully, A, to slow the roll of the Trump administration, and B, to develop structures and substructures amongst people preparing for an opportunity. I mean, this is, at the end of the day, this is what it's all, about, is making sure that there are ideas and plans and social structures. Like, you need to go out and, it's not just a question of joining a political organization, but join a lot of organizations. Like, develop relationships in the context of your community, and these connections, not just DSA. Good. You want to go local DSA? Do it.
They are overflowing, apparently.
I would imagine. But not just DSA, go out and join, a peace organization, but also, I don't know, join a pickup basketball league or
running clubs are the big thing now.
Yeah, sense of immediately, I'm already getting 2 different requests from people to do like just women's conversational groups over the next once every 2 months, just to be able to talk to people and decompress about this kind of stuff.
Frankly, women's groups like that were fundamental to most
huge
progress in this country.
Yes.
Going back to the abolition times.
Not the least of which to 2018.
Yeah.
It'll keep you engaged, but not despondent, and that's exactly what we need.
And the less mediated stuff, the better. So the more in-person connections and stuff, the better.
Right. Well, we see how corroded our communication and media structure is right now. I mean, that's one of the many stories of this election is people, we were seeing entirely different things. I think that contributed to perhaps my overconfidence about Harris than many of these Trump voters were. And AOC is doing some really great stuff on her stories right now on Instagram. Yesterday, she was asking people in her district who voted, because she really didn't lose any support, and there were a lot of people that voted for Trump and AOC. And so she was asking on her stories, and some of it's a very Latino district as well, which the Democrats lost a lot of ground with that particular group. And one of the things she's also doing is basically asking, well, what media do you consume as well? And the answers are stark. She shouted out the Majority Report, though. I didn't mean to go down this road, but she said that on her short list, I was happy to see that.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm not talking about media and info that way. What I'm talking about is developing relationships, because at one point there's going to be opportunities, whether it is on a local level, whether it's on a state level, whether it's on a national level, there are going to be opportunities and maybe urgencies to mobilize in some fashion. That may be, something akin to there's a Muslim ban and people are going out to the airport. Or it may be there's a special election for a I don't know, the school committee position, or it may be something else. But the point is, now is a good time to go out and develop those relationships.
Yeah.
We're getting a lot of people from different, DSAs here, around DSA Aaron in Atlanta. The DSA Atlanta branch was overflowing in the general meeting. Jack from Queens, New York City DSA has a running club.
That's a great idea.
Dizzle McFizzle, Sam never reads my IMs, but I have to get this out. If you live in Green Bay, please join our local DSA chapter. We have a long fight ahead of us. We need your help. I mean, Worcester Don Draper met with someone from the Worcester DSA yesterday afternoon, took a role as one of the main jiu-jitsu instructors at the largest MMA gym in Worcester earlier this year. MMA gyms are hotbeds for bad opinions. All of this stuff. In Naughty Queen in New York, we have Citizen Action, which targeted Molinaro and Williams and helped them get both out. They stumped for Riley and Ryan, too. Sought by AOC for endorsement, statewide Oregon, base power building. I mean, all of this, these are all things. And really, you can do this work in any context. It doesn't have to be overtly political. It is really about sort of strengthening your community because, I mean, look, we really don't know where we're headed into. I have learned over the years, to not get overly panicked in these situations and whatnot. But, we really don't know. We're watching Donald Trump right now tell, basically make anybody in the Senate who wants to be a Senate majority leader, you guys are going to have planned recesses, so I'm going to get all my appointments passed. Now, what was it? Claire McCaskill, apparently, I've been told, has said that that's a sign of weakness. Well, if he gets him to do it, it's actually a sign of strength. And, you know, this is not going to, his cabinet officials are not going to implicate the average person, or at least in a way that they understand. Let's put it that way. One person over another necessarily in these agencies. But it starts to set a tone for how they're going to operate. And I don't know if they're serious about their deportation of 11 million people. My tendency is to believe they are. And maybe it's not going to be 11 million. Maybe it'll be 1 million. Maybe it'll be 2 million or 3 million or 4 million. But they're going to have to come into your city. They're going to have to come into your town. And if you have a network of people that you have developed, you may be in an opportunity to help. I mean, you know, confuse people, you know, like send out, you know, I don't know, maybe you have a squad of people who just go out and change the address tags on people's homes. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we just don't know yet. And do I think it's going to get worse than that? No, I have friends who think like there's not going to be an election in 4 years. I tend to think that there will be, but now is the time for you to begin to prepare for whatever possibility exists. And a lot of it's on the table. You know, a lot of it's on the table right now. And I would say also that doing this kind of work is not just to protect you, yours, vulnerable people, marginalized people in our society, whether we're talking, you know, first level is, you know, people who are immigrants or people who are trans, or, you know, people who are working for nonprofits or whatever it is. You're going to want to build these relationships so that you can protect these people and you have a way of doing it. But even if none of this was on the table, still a great thing to do to go out to impact political change in the future. So this is sort of like, you know, one of those type of win-win situations. And now it's just an easier moment to do it because there's going to be a lot of people out there who are going to be feeling a little bit lost and feeling a little bit hopeless. And the best thing you can do for them is to hang with them and share that misery or encourage each other. And, you know, there's some areas where if it's convenient for you to become an MMA gym instructor and you can be there and develop your creds in one sort of silo, as it were, take your time, develop the creds in that silo. I don't know what it takes, like some type of leg sweep, and you could drop everybody in there. And then while they're down, yeah, you start to, you know, maybe you start to talk a little bit about politics. That's the way that it works.
Yeah, and isn't it something how your rent is still high, even though all this horrific ICE stuff is going on in the news? Yeah.
And speaking of, like, you know, dissidents, there's two things happening. One specifically today. There's not much you can do about it, but you should be aware of it. There is a bill being voted on today in the House. And I can't find I lost my paper. There's a bill being voted on today in the House that essentially is like the terrorist. What is the name of that bill? Son of a bitch. I had it right here.
Stop terror
here it
financing.
Is. Sorry. Yes, exactly. I got it. It's the Stop Terror Financing Tax Penalties on American Hostages Act. Like they threw in everything you'd be afraid of. It is known as HR 9495. You should call your congresspeople and tell them to vote against it. They won't. The vast majority of your congresspeople, Democratic and Republican, or at least have voted for it in the past. And the problem with this, and hopefully Democrats now will realize oh, wait a second. I'd really contemplated, did we give this power to Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, that maybe Donald Trump ends up wielding it. Under the bill, and this is from The Intercept, Noah Horowitz wrote about this yesterday. Under the bill, Treasury Secretary would issue a notice to a group of intent. This can be any nonprofit, any 501c3 in this country, intent to designate it as, quote, terrorist supporting organization. So is that an organization that raises money for UNRWA? Is it an organization that raises money for Jewish organizations that are fighting against the occupation? Well, according to the bill, the law does not require officials to explain the reason for designating a group, nor does it require the Treasury Department to provide evidence. So it can be pretty much willy-nilly what they can sell to any type of constituency, and they don't have to sell it, really. It's really just how much attention will it be given by, I don't know, CNN?
And the terrorist supporting part, obviously it has direct implications for protesting for Palestine, but you could basically designate a lot of groups, and they do, terrorist supporting. Say you're an immigrant rights organization, that they could say, oh, you're helping the cartel. You're helping this extremist group in this country.
The part that they don't have to do is the second part of what you said.
Does it formally do so?
They don't have to issue any reason whatsoever.
Right.
I mean, we had the FBI taking down vegan terrorists during the Bush years because they were protesting outside of some type of, I think it was a Hormel ham or something like that facility in Georgia, South Carolina. It escapes me. It was 20 years ago. So, I mean, according to Ryan Costello, Policy Director of the National Iranian American Council Action, it basically empowers the Treasury Secretary to target any group that wants to call them a terrorist supporter and block their ability to be a nonprofit. That would essentially kill any nonprofit's ability to function. They couldn't get banks to service them. They won't be able to get donations. There'd be a black mark on the organization, even if it cleared his name. I mean, I don't know if you had, a new Acorn that was, it could be anything.
Voting rights group, if you register the wrong person to vote.
Abortion rights organizations, maybe.
Southern Poverty Law Center, Jay from basically Oregon says, this could be anybody.
You guys want to put this up on the screen?
And here's what's happening.
I thought you were reading from it still.
The bill is, I think it's going to the floor today. The last time it passed, it died in the Senate. It's just going to squander in a committee. But the Senate, in 3 months, is going to be 53-47 Republican, more than likely. And it's going to be less likely that bill dies in committee because the Democrats aren't controlling it and don't want it to come out into the floor. But if you think that Republicans can't run with something like this, call your Congress people today. Do we have a number? We'll put it on the podcast and YouTube description. We'll put it at majority.fm and tell them to vote against House Resolution 9495. HR 9495, the Stop Terror Financing bullshit law.
Yeah. Just some related trivia. Reporting from the Associated Press and Israeli news site Shamrim finds that 3 groups that have worked to obstruct aid efforts in Gaza have gotten tax-deductible donations from the U.S. and Israel. The groups have collectively raised $200,000, the investigation found. That's not to mention tax-deductible donations to groups within Israel that didn't try to, block aid efforts.
I want to also remind you while you're there, call your senators today and get them to support resolutions 111 through 115. Defund weapons aid to Israel. We are now at the deadline for Israel's needing to show that they were providing more aid in Gaza. They have failed to do so, and now is the time. We will link to this, if not now, petition that they will send to your senator, but it's worth it calling them as well. All right, couple words from the sponsor, and then we'll get into Donald Trump's NeoConned term. I am so old. I remember when he won the Republican primaries in 2016 by criticizing the Iraq War.
Yep.
All right. Couple of sponsors today. One is from Prolon. Forget everything you know about fasting. Prolon by L Nutra is the only patented fasting mimicking diet that combines the benefits of prolonged fasting with a science-backed nutrition plan so you can hit your health and weight loss goals without actually having to give up all food. Introducing Prolon, a revolutionary plant-based nutrition program that nourishes the body while making cells believe they're fasting. It was researched and developed for decades at the University of Southern California Longevity Institute. Backed by leading U.S. medical centers, Prolon helps promote healthy blood sugar, support cardiovascular health, and reduce abdominal fat. Prolon is not a diet. Prolon is science. It's science based on Nobel Prize-winning discoveries in medicine. This all starts with Prolon's 5-day program. Snacks, soups, and beverages, all designed to keep your body in a fasting state. It really is unlike anything you've ever experienced. I tried this, I guess it was like 8 months ago. And I did it while doing the show. Nobody here knew until I was on like day 3 and was complaining about losing one of my the chocolate crisp or whatever it was. I mean, it's true. It's like
you were your normal level of sort of anger.
I feel I had more energy though, and I was actually surprised by it. My sister just recently did it. She had the same experience. It's not a walk in the park, but it's a lot more doable than you would have imagined, and the long-term health benefits coming out of at least the research in this Longevity Institute are pretty well established, including blood sugar and your heart. Right now, Prolon's offering the Majority Report listeners 15% off their 5-day nutrition program. Go to prolonlife.com/majority. That's PROLON life.com/majority for this special offer. No, I don't think Saul ate the crisp, although it's possible. But I you really taste your food in those situations, and I was bummed about it. Also sponsoring the program today, if you're born after 1970, which I was not, there's a very good chance your first razor was a multi-blade razor, although for me it was. Those razors have been the status quo for over a half a century, but frankly, where has it gotten everybody? 2/3 of men expect irritation when they shave. They shave. There's virtually no information on how to prevent irritation. And on top of all this, you got 2 billion plastic razors enter the landfill each year in the U.S. alone. Well, I want to introduce you to Henson Shaving. They're going to change the shaving industry, not through gimmicks like subscriptions or, moisturizing strips, but through groundbreaking research on the impact shaving has on your skin. Here's the dirty little secret. It is not the sharpness of the blade. Apparently, you can make a sharp blade. It is how far the blade reaches out from the razor. Because it's like the further out, it becomes like a diving board in your swimming pool. And that is where your irritation comes. These guys at Henson Shaving, they have an aerospace machine shop in Canada that makes parts for the Mars rover and the International Space Station. So they're obviously pretty precise in when they engineer stuff and machine it. And they have made a blade so it extends only 0.0013 inches past the plane of the razor. And it really is incredible. It's almost like hard to cut yourself with it, but it's so effective. I mean, I only shave here and right here, but it is, I don't use any shaving cream.
I recently converted to Henson after having a previous sponsors, a whole bunch of blades from a previous sponsor, and it is so much nicer. And I got so many blades now, and then I'll never have to have a subscription again.
No subscription.
And it's way better shave, too.
It's way better shave. It's a significantly better shave. It just feels better in your hand. This is something will last you your life. And then once you've bought this, which is, I don't know, even like maybe an annual subscription to one of those other things, you will be able to shave for $3 to $5 a year for the rest of your life.
Yep.
And that's what sold Matt. And now Henson Shaving is going to give you a free. They're straight edge razors like this. They're going to give you a free, like a big box of them. Good for at least a year, and you won't have to pay for at least a year or two, and then it's like I say, $3 to $5 because it's non-proprietary stuff. It's a great razor, maybe not the greatest of razor businesses for them, but this thing honestly is going to last you your life. They got a bunch of different models. They're all fantastic. It's time to say no to subscriptions and yes to a razor that's going to last you a lifetime. Visit hensonshaving.com/Sam to pick the razor for you and use the code SAM to get a free shave cream with your razor. All you got to do is add it to your cart. Oh, maybe they're not doing the razor code anymore, but it's $3 to $5 a year for the razor. So do yourself a favor.
It's a great deal.
It's a great deal, and you're going to love this. It really is fantastic. They also got the little things so you can evacuate the
hair and
the hair.
cream.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And great gift for Christmas or Hanukkah. I mean, huge, super gift. All right, let's get back to what's going on here. Oh, there she is.
Hi.
Welcome back, Emma.
Thank you.
We're going to make an effort to have a sense of humor about this stuff because otherwise we're just going to be depressed all the time. So I'm just putting you on notice about that because this is one of those things that would be hilarious if it wasn't such a shit show. The Trump picks. Remember that whole thing, Emma, about Donald Trump is,
Anti-war?
Is anti-war. Now, we should also remind you, the amount of droning that he ramped up, even from Obama's numbers, dramatic. He pulled us out of no wars. Reminder, Biden dropped drones to almost non-existence. Got us out of the Afghanistan, and also Saudi Arabia. We stopped arming Saudi Arabia's assault on the Yemen.
Trump didn't just exceed Obama in one term with like the number of drone strikes. With Obama was in office for 2 terms. Trump exceeded it in 1. But he also removed that policy that Obama put in at the end of his presidency that had reporting requirements for those drone strikes and publishing the number of civilians that were killed. So we also have a less of an understanding and transparency on that front because of Donald Trump. I wouldn't call that anti-war.
And but we saw, all the libertarians and all the anti-war people saying that Donald Trump is the choice. I mean, we will get in the coming weeks to watch what Israel's going to do in terms of Gaza. I mean, everyone, we have documented, I feel like, as well as any situated where we are, on what the Biden administration had done in terms of encouraging Israel's attacks in Gaza. But with all that said, here I give you your new Secretary of State, not Secretary of Defense. This is just the one who's supposedly going to be diplomatic.
Diplomacy.
Yes.
Well,
was it a mistake?
That's not the same question. The question I was asked is what you know now. Well, based on what we know now, I think everyone agrees.
Was it a mistake? Was it a mistake to go to war with Iraq?
It was.
I'm asking you.
Yeah, I understand, but that's not the same question.
But that's the question I'm asking you. Was it a mistake to
It was not a mistake for the president to decide to go into Iraq because at the time he was told.
I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you.
In hindsight.
Yes.
Well, the world is a better place because Saddam Hussein is not there.
So was it
I
a
wouldn't
mistake
characterize
or not?
it. But I don't understand the question you're asking.
I'm asking you, knowing everything, as we sit here in 2015.
But that's not the way presidents don't. A president cannot make a decision on what someone might know in the future.
But that's what I'm asking you. Was it a mistake?
It was not a mistake for the president to go into Iraq based on the information he was provided as president. Well.
All right, so that's his way of saying no.
Trump called it
not,
a big fat mistake in the debate stage.
But he was afraid of going against Trump. But we can, that was all the way back in 2015. I'm sure he is literally, he has changed his tune. In 2016, this is interesting. He uses the phrase "New American Century." Now, for people who have listened to this program for 20 years, you will recall that the NeoCons, Douglas Feith, Pearl, Wolfowitz, Cheney, et al., essentially had developed a whole worldview as to what America should do in the wake of the fall of the Soviet Union. And I think it was 1993, many of those people got together and created a document a document that was a function of a group called the Project for a New American Century. And what it called for was American hegemony to be maintained by allowing for low-grade wars all around the globe so that nothing could rise and sort of like aggregate into a force that would challenge American supremacy. Here's Marco Rubio. When he ran, he was running on, oddly enough, a new American century.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
now, it's possible he had not heard of Dick Cheney or Paul Wolfowitz or Douglas Feith or Pearl or any of these neocons.
Pretty small possibility.
I think Jeb Bush was also involved in that. He was sort of in the Florida area. Anyways, here is Marco Rubio in 2016.
So if you don't get a deal, what's the alternative? Do we have to go to war? Is it necessary to be absolutely certain they don't have a nuclear weapon or the capability to build one?
And I think that the best way to have achieved that is to leave in place both the unilateral sanctions and the international sanctions. You combine that with a very clear demarcation to the Iranian regime, and that is this: if you cross this threshold, you will face military action on the part of the United States. We don't want that to happen, but the risk of a nuclear Iran is so great that that option must be on the table.
So if it came to that, that would be an option that you would actually
absolutely consider
and use.
And let me tell you why. If we don't do it,
if we don't do it, who's going to do it? Israel's going to do it, I guess. The bottom line is that we had a deal in place in 2016 to inhibit Iran's, to the extent that they had any weaponized nuclear aspirations. Now,
negotiated by his office that he's going to assume pretty soon.
Exactly. And of course, that's not going to come back. And I think this is an indication of the likelihood of war with Iran has increased. This is not a dove that Donald Trump just picked. This guy was sort of like, I don't know, there's Batman and Robin with McCain and Graham, and this guy would have been, I don't know, not Alfred, but, some junior Robin, essentially.
And Trump, another war hawk thing that he did was assassinating Qasem Soleimani when he was president, extrajudicially, a top Iranian general. And the only reason that we didn't go to war with Iran was because, as we've seen now with Israel's provocations, Iran has decided to to take it on the chin, essentially, and they haven't escalated. But is it like with a more hawkish Secretary of State and the second time around, after all of the conditions that have been laid bare because of Israel's genocide in Gaza and the way that that region has been inflamed, do I think that the possibility this time around for Iran to respond and drag us into a war, like that's just increased in terms of its likelihood many times over, it seems to me. Rubio is a hawk on everything. He's a hawk on China, too. That's a part of it. He's a hawk on Cuba. He pretends like his family came over and fled Castro, but people have done some research into it. Then it was actually during Batista when they came over, but whatever. He's a hawk on Venezuela. We're going to see a return to neocon style look, it's not even a return, but a retrenchment of these neocon style politics. And all that anti-war stuff, please.
Well, wait, don't take it from us. Don't take it from us. I want to play poker with this guy. Here is Dave Smith. We had him on the show, I feel like, years and years ago. I can't really remember.
In the old backdrop days.
In the old backdrop days. And Dave Smith, who basically sold out the Libertarian Party by, didn't Dave
He basically commodified the Libertarian Party and gave it to the GOP.
I mean, did he not? He supported Trump as
Yes.
opposed to his Libertarian candidate.
But nobody knows about Chase Olivier or whatever his name is.
I mean, that candidate was actually not bad.
The best on the border, I think.
But here is Marco Rubio. He writes, Dave Smith writes, Marco Rubio is a disaster. Might as well give Liz Cheney the State Department. Awful sign.
It's not a sign.
Sign?
It's the thing.
It is the thing.
Yeah, this is not a signifier.
No. This is a
power.
Or it could be. I mean, talk about like desperately wanting to be a plausible deniability and snowed. I mean, this guy's such a mark. It's not a sign. Like, what do you think that, like, this is what we're going to do?
Yeah.
We're going to appoint little Marco as Secretary of State as a head fake, just to scare people, to make them think that we have a neoconservative policy. But I'm actually not going to do anything he says. I have been hitting the books and dug deep into this. And so it's a head fake.
This knife in my back is a bad sign.
Exactly. Yes. Here is Dave Smith sending out the word, sending out the bat signal to Donald Trump Jr. Just let me just see. Can I just check my watch here? Do we have a calendar up? This was, I know, 1 day ago, where Donald Trump Jr. said, Dave Smith was like, the Stop Pompeo movement is great.
They were really feeling themselves for 2 days when Pompeo and Nikki Haley, two people that personally offended Trump.
Yes, exactly. Right now, we need maximum pressure to keep all neocons and war hawks out of the Trump administration. They have had their time. Can we show more there? What else comes in? We have had they have had their time, he said. I mean, here is Dave Smith. And to be fair, that was almost 3 whole days ago.
Yes.
So life comes at you fast. But as we're pulling that up, we should remind you, it's not just... Here it is. And They've had their time at the table and brought nothing but disaster to the world in this country. America first. Screw the war machine. And,
You've got it, Dave.
And Donald Trump Jr. agreed. Now, I'm not as hip as Donald Trump Jr. What's the 100 thing mean?
Like 100%.
I'm joking.
I'm on it, he says. He says.
Agreed. 100, 100, 100. 3 exclamation points. I'm on it. But in the meantime, I also have to go join the board of a VC that is funding a company that funds all right-wing merchandising that my dad's going to be going out and promoting, not including our own, crypto coin meme or whatever the hell it is.
Well, I just can't even.
Yes. And so there you have it. And we should say, well, this is a bad sign because Marco Rubio, Mike Waltz.
Yes.
Another bad sign.
Is also
Security
another
advisor.
bad sign.
Yes. Wow.
He is, Mike Waltz is.
The writing on the wall is not looking so good here,
It's
guys.
not. I mean, Trump's really working overtime to throw everybody off the trail by appointing all these war hawks to these top positions.
He is a China hawk, a Green Beret.
Central casting this guy.
He called for a U.S. boycott of the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing due to its involvement in the origin of COVID-19. Also, apparently, according to Mike Waltz, China mistreats Muslim Uyghurs there. Now, I would also imagine that Waltz also has a problem with Muslims in other parts of the world, though.
Yeah, he has a problem that they're putting him to camps instead of just bombing them.
Exactly. Well, at least you should know he was a policy advisor to Don Rumsfeld.
Oh.
I stand for several hours a day. How is a standing torture in Guantanamo torture guy? Yeah.
There you go. So, this is...
That's a real thing.
A real thing.
That's very bad. Yes.
Loose stool. Emma's helping Sam finish his sentences today like she's his nurse. I mean, I need it. It's been a tough week all around.
In terms of my neurological capacity.
Yes.
Exactly. But I am going to enjoy the, let's play this clip from Mike Waltz. This is Donald Trump's incoming national security advisor at APAC in 2017, CPAC, and in 2017. And this is a guy who was mad that Joe Biden was contemplating or would ever contemplate getting out of Afghanistan. And here he is 3 years later, basically saying, we need to have people in there more or less like we've had them in Japan or Germany.
15 years in, yes. Are we in for a lot more fighting? And do we need a long-term strategy to undermine the ideology of Islamic extremism, just like we did fascism and just like we did communism? Yes, we do. Gordon, I think we're in for a long haul, and I think our nation's leadership needs to begin telling the American people, I'm sorry, we don't have a choice. We are 15 years into what is going to be a multi-generational war because we're talking about defeating an idea. It's easy to bomb a tank, very difficult to defeat an idea, and that's exactly what we have to do.
All right, just let me make it clear on what he's saying here. He is saying 15 years into the Afghanistan war that the global war on terror, started by George W. Bush and the NeoCons, was multi-generational. Multi-generational. Not it's going to take a generation, but multi-generational. And he is saying this 15 years into the war. This is a guy who is 100% on board with the global war on terror. Very, very excited for young folk to begin to hear this this term again. Reintroduced by the Republicans who brought it to us in the first place. These are Donald Trump, and this is a failure of Democrats broadly, specifically of Biden, specifically of Harris as well, of the Democratic leadership, of our media. Donald Trump is unique in a couple of ways. He's a lunatic, like legit, I think. Also, he's sassy with his verbiage, and he will mimic giving a blowjob to a microphone in a way that a lot of politicians are afraid to do. He also is a good marketer and good at insults. And he's lied about his intentions in terms of Social Security and Medicare because he doesn't have any. He just knows what was going to sell on the campaign trail. They tried to cut it during his administration. He is a Republican. Republicans are him. This has been the case. Donald Trump did not fall out of a coconut tree. Donald Trump was born out of the Republican Party. Again, Mitt Romney went to New York in 2012 to kiss his ring, to get his blessing, not because he was some type of sui generis, very unique type of Republican. No, because he was one of the most prominent Republicans in the country.
Birther.
He started the birthing thing, or at least gave it its sort of rocket fuel.
Most prominent, yep.
It was him. It was Rush Limbaugh. You needed their blessing to be the Republican nominee, even if you're Mitt Romney. The days of saying that, they're MAGA or they're this or they're that, they're Republicans. They're Republicans. There are no Dwight Eisenhower is dead.
Yeah. Mitt
He also
Romney
wasn't a typical Republican. He was a war commander that they recruited.
And Mitt Romney was vying for Secretary of State when he was kissing that ring. And Marco Rubio now being put up for Secretary of State. Is there a better avatar for this mythical, reasonable Republican than Marco Rubio? When you're doing that branding, that's the kind of Republican they could gesture towards. And what do you know? He's about to be one of the top members of the administration. So exceptionalizing Donald Trump in that way, and this is exactly what you've been saying for so many years. It allows people to do what they did to vote him back into office, where we're seeing reports where people just went in and voted for Trump and didn't even vote down ballot in many of these swing states and in other areas of the country because he is seen outside of the Republican establishment, which is reviled in the same way that the Democratic establishment is. And that's what this entire never Trump Republican strategy that has come out of these last 10 years of him dominating our politics, all it did was further exceptionalize him and put him outside of the structure of the Republican Party. And it's nonsensical.
Put up that libertarian tweet again, because this is the funny part. And this is, again, Dave Smith, hearing about Marco Rubio. His reaction. I want his reaction.
It should be his latest tweet. Just click on his profile. Go back to the other. Scroll down. Yeah.
Marco Rubio is a disaster. Might as well give Liz Cheney the State Department. Awful sign. I will tell you that the only thing inhibiting Donald Trump from giving Liz Cheney the State Department is that Liz Cheney is a dime a dozen in the Republican Party.
Yeah.
She is also a Republican. You don't need to put Liz Cheney there because far and wide, when you look in the Republican Party, that's what you'll find. Period. End of story. And the pretending that they didn't know this is a joke. This is called brand protection. That's
Yep.
what this is. And it's a joke. I mean, give me a break. Donald Trump is not anti-war. Donald Trump is not anti-elite. Donald Trump is not anti-establishment. I still remember the day he won in 2016. He's walking into, what was it, 21st Club or 21st Club, putting his hand on all his buddies' shoulders and saying, I'm going to cut all your taxes. And I got news for you. He wasn't putting the hands on the wait staff's shoulders.
No.
They were all the people eating the escargot or whatever it is that they ate in the 21st Club or whatever that is.
Anti-elite. For some reason gets buried, but he was hobnobbing with Jeffrey Epstein. There are now recordings of Jeffrey Epstein saying he was a close friend of Donald Trump's.
From Michael Wolff, yeah.
So like for all of these right-wingers who talk about the elites and how they're all pedophiles and a part of this cabal or whatever, maybe take a look at your own dude. It's just incredible how he exists outside of the very structures that he's intimately involved in terms of like the way people perceive him.
Here is, let's play this too. Okay, this is really disturbing. On a number of reasons. Remember, okay, so we've established now that Donald Trump is actually not anti-war, not anti-NeoCon, but at least he's for free speech. And at least he's for not allowing the government to interfere with free speech and, keeping, ideas from free flowing. The government should not get involved in promulgating what ideas go out. Well, here's Donald Trump putting out one of his policy videos. I don't know if people are going to fully realize when you first hear this just how effing nuts this is. And I will say this, and I said it in 2016. I would bet this has already happened. But if you look at the ETFs of private universities, they just shot up. They create basically a little mutual funds of just like publicly owned private universities, publicly owned in terms of shareholders. There's a bunch of those. These are big business. They get a minimum of 90% of their annual revenue comes from government loans. Minimum. And that's only because the Biden administration shifted the policy where you get 90% of your revenue from government loans. The other 10% could have been veterans loans, which incidentally is also from the government, but they just discluded that. They have put it into, under the Biden administration, they said, well, we're including veterans loans too, because that's government loans. So you got to go out into the private marketplace and find some bank that's willing to finance these student loans for the other 10%. And they barely could do it. And now this is Donald Trump basically telling them, don't worry. Not only am I going to take all regulations off of for-profit universities who have a history of ripping people off, even things like Trump University.
Tuition costs at colleges and universities have been exploding.
I'm also going to use this same authority that's going to unleash the forces to allow for these private universities to essentially profiteer off of the misery and desperation of people. I'm also going to use it to intimidate all other universities that don't get government funds.
Tuition costs at colleges and universities have been exploding, and I mean absolutely exploding. While academics have been obsessed with indoctrinating America's youth, the time has come to reclaim our once great educational institutions from the radical left, and we will do that. Our secret weapon will be the college accreditation system. It's called accreditation for a reason. The accreditors are supposed to ensure that schools are not ripping off students and taxpayers, but they have failed totally. When I return to the...
That's actually not the primary purpose. It's partly. The purpose is to make sure that people are getting an actual legitimate education. And he is now going to use this as leverage to force all universities, on one hand, to do what he's about to propose, and then also to let other ones off the hook and allow them to essentially scam people.
Like Trump University, which was unaccredited,
100%.
which he was sued over. So it's rich for him to say, it's called accreditation for a reason. Well, you would know, buddy, because you lost a bunch of money with your unaccredited garbage school.
Ripping off students and taxpayers, but they have failed totally. When I return to the White House, I will fire the radical left accreditors that have allowed our colleges to become dominated by Marxist maniacs and lunatics. We will then accept applications for new accreditors who will impose real standards on colleges once again and once and for all. These standards will include defending the American tradition and Western civilization, protecting free speech, eliminating wasteful administrative positions that drive up costs incredibly, removing all Marxist diversity, equity, and inclusion bureaucrats, offering options for accelerated and low-cost degrees, providing meaningful job placement and career services, and implementing college entrance and exit exams to prove that students are actually learning and getting their money's worth. Furthermore, I will direct the Department of Justice to pursue federal civil rights cases against schools that continue to engage in racial discrimination and schools that persist in explicit, unlawful discrimination under the guise of equity will not only have their endowments taxed, but through budget reconciliation, I will advance a measure to have them fined up to the entire amount of their endowment. A portion of the seized funds will then be used as restitution for victims of these illegal and unjust policies that hurt our country so badly. Colleges have gotten hundreds of billions of dollars from hardworking taxpayers, and now we are going to get this anti-American insanity out of our institutions.
Okay, well, that's good. Now, I am okay, and this is also a teachable moment for Republicans and libertarians. I am not against regulation. But there are regulations I am against. So it's one thing to regulate based upon some type of generic educational and pedagogical standards to determine whether someone's actually getting a baseline for an education. It's another to say, we're going to impose curriculums on you, or you're not going to qualify as an educational institution. And that's what he's talking about here.
Yep.
That's what he's talking about. And I can go Google ETF for-profit colleges. They will know the truth right there. These are for-profit universities that target very often, one of their primary targets are African-American women in their 20s or 30s who are at work. They have no college degree. They are finding they're bumping up against a ceiling, and they are convinced that if they get that college degree, they're going to be able to move their careers forward. And they get student loans from the government. These for-profit universities basically, there you go. Bingo.
Nice.
Education stocks rally with Trump seen as benefiting for-profit colleges. They know.
Love that
Same with
education
for-profit prisons.
a part of our speculative marketplace. That seems like a healthy way to
They
start
know.
society.
They know. Well, that's what a lot of charter schools are too, and that's
I
why
know.
they want to get rid of the Department of Education.
That's a part of Project 2025, which Matt Walsh was gloating about, saying, "Actually, we were lying. LOL. It was.
Of course.
It was the plan all along."
Of
So-
course it was.
But at least Trump's funny on in memes and things like that. That kind of works out for
we'll
the country.
see if tying educational accreditation standards to the nature of the curriculum being taught, pro-American holds up in court. But really, if it doesn't, he still achieved what he really wants to do, which is to loosen the accreditation standards for these for-profit colleges that you just saw their stocks went through the roof. All right. I got on my hobby horse there about that, but this is what going to be a series of things.
That was disturbing. It sounded like Stephen Miller wrote that. And by the way, sorry?
The Western civilization part.
Yeah, and the lesson that Trump took from the first administration essentially is that we're not wasting my time with the Reince Priebus's of the world. So Stephen Miller is going to be extremely senior and probably acting with urgency, given the fact that they feel like they were thwarted by the establishment Republicans last time around.
Andrew from Vermont. I'm going to read this one I am. I'm a few years younger than Sam, and I've only voted Dem, except for Nader, my entire life. The smug, way off base post-election takes from most of the Democratic establishment makes me want to only vote third party from now on. A, let me say these type of tweets you should wait on. And B, honestly, if you're going to fashion your politics around like this type of sort of like a grievance to your sensitivities, then you don't have any politics. You don't have any politics. This is honestly like the equivalent of, somebody was mean to me at a cocktail party and therefore I'm against Medicare for all. I mean, this is, of course, the Joe Scarboroughs, of course, the Nancy Pelosi's, of course, whomever are going to come out and they're going to attempt to influence the future of the party in a direction that they want it to go. And you can be offended by that. And you can say, since they're going to engage in this competition, I'm going to walk away.
Give them what they want.
And give them what they want and spend my time, doing nothing, essentially just, running on some type of treadmill where even if I was to, get off it, it wouldn't be for anything. I mean, by all means, go organize third-party folks for your local elections. Very helpful in the long run. But to get turned off because they're engaging in some type of political fight and they're on the other side and your response is, then I'm going to take my ball and go home. Like, what are you doing?
If you have more contempt for liberals than the fascists right now, I think you really have to kind of reorient your worldview at this point. We can say like we're contemptuous towards them for getting us in this situation, but right now the task in front of us right now is resisting this extremist presidency that now has essentially unchecked power. So, and that includes...
And they're out. Like, they're out of the hole, and we can chase them. Like, I think time is actually now to, like, fight them, not
100%.
Not, like, remove the battle. Like, now is actually time to go to their necks.
100%.
And they have nothing to defend themselves.
I'm okay with having more contempt for those people than anybody else, but you can chew gum and walk at the same time. It's irrelevant, but as long as your contempt for them is not like, oh, I know I'm going to show them. They're going to get everything they want.
I'm resigning.
Like, that's not, that is the worst use of your contempt. I think the contempt is fine, frankly.
Right. All I'm trying to say is make it proportional and make it so that, like, we're clear-eyed about what we have in front of us right now.
100%. But, and you should be able to have, enough contempt to go around. But yeah, this is a time, and this in particular is when a lot of like these sort of like, because in 6 to 8 months ago now, we're going to barely have any type of memory of this. And people's ideas of what this election about and why they failed is going to get cemented. So this is not the time to say they're being stupid. I'm not going to engage in an argument with them. This is the time to say they're being stupid and I'm going to win this argument.
And honestly, the quality of the people who are making this argument right now, it's diminished. Like in 2016, there were a lot of wrong lessons learned, but at least we have these folks like Chris Murphy in the Senate who are acknowledging the problem very directly. Like, it's still more of the cranks and the radical centrists and the Seth Moultons who are making the cases that they are. But they're fewer and further between. This is such a failure in so many ways that I'm a little bit more hopeful, although, gosh, it's hard to be right now, that they're going to learn some lessons from this. But we have to make sure that we're militant about that.
Small D Democrat. How do y'all think the fact that Trump can only serve one more term will affect his administration's attitude approach to governing? I mean, I think he is going to basically say, guys, I want this part over here that's going to make me all the money. And you guys report into me once every couple of weeks and tell me how the rest of it's going. And that's about it.
I mean, he already didn't do any work his first time around. Like, there were reports that his staff would take things off of his desk so he wouldn't sign it and he would just forget about it because he would impulsively ask for something. He's going to basically probably, I think, do a Dick Cheney and just like give all the stuff he doesn't want to have to worry about over to J.D. Vance, which is almost scarier than it would have been if he was just acting off the cuff.
We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back in the fun half. We're going to take some of your phone calls. We'll take some of your IMs. And, bear with us as we try and sort of like step back and
calibrate our emotions.
But, during this the next couple of weeks, we're going to be contemplating, like, what's the direction of the show? People have been very rude to me on the left. And one of the things that I, feel strongly about is that I can't speak my mind without being criticized.
Yeah.
And that is a problem. And so, therefore, we're joining the Daily Wire.
Someone called you a man with testicles or a person with testicles, and now it's time to...
Yes, I was referred to as a person with testicles. Small testicles, but nevertheless.
That was the least insulting part of it.
That was the least insulting part of it. Look, we're gonna every couple of years we sort of reorient the show. It's subtle at different times, and it's more or less dramatic at other times, and some of it happens organically, and some of it happens like, oh, we're not gonna do Mondays is gonna be a book day anymore, or Tuesdays is news day, or something like that. We're give us a little bit of time, and we're gonna work it out. It's not something that I hadn't contemplated before, but really you don't have a sense until something like this happens of what sometimes the answer is. There have been work, I've been impressed by people like Pritzker in Illinois, who they spent a lot of time in the past month or two, I guess, looking at Project 2025 and figuring out what they can do as a state to inhibit some of the things. And you've got, places like Massachusetts, and you've got California and other places saying, like, we're not helping with this deportation or whatnot. So, stay tuned. We're going to take a quick break. And then we're going to, we're going to switch the fun half to constructive criticism half.
Oh.
Yep.
No good news that we can point to in the fun half. I'm struggling to.
Kanye will be looked at as someone that saved the Jews.
Maybe. What's the good news?
We'll go over some of Tim Pool today too.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and we have some good news.
What can you do with this?
Jesse Waters has nowhere to go for Thanksgiving, but we'll talk about.
Jesse Waters' mom is like actual therapist or something like that, right? Dr. Ann Waters. I didn't know that, which makes kind of the subplot of them having. It
totally makes sense. I mean, that type of stuff happens all the time. It's like, what was that show? Family, the one that Michael J. Keaton, Michael J. Fox is on as Alex P. Keaton. The Family Ties or something like that. Whatever. Folks, your support makes this show possible. You can become a member and join the literally tens of you who have become members this week alone as a way to support our efforts going forward. You can become a member at jointhemajorityreport.com. As always, if you cannot afford to become a member, but you want access, it'd be helpful for you. Send us an email at majorityreporters@gmail.com. We will work something out with you. Just put in the subject line, help with membership, and we will help you. It'll take a little while because, we're a little busy right now, but we will get there. Also, justcoffee.coop. Support a co-op. In fact, go work at a co-op. Those are great places to begin to meet people and, create connections. And, if somebody's at a co-op, they're probably at least somewhat like-minded. My experience, sometimes you can meet people there and you're like, oh, you're a little bit intense. But I've met a lot of really nice people at the co-ops I've worked at.
I really think tenant organizing is the wave. I mean, I talked with people on Left Reckoning in Montana about it. I just searched
we had somebody on Kansas from the Kansas thing.
Casey Tenants is maybe
2 weeks ago,
one of the most impressive organizations. Yeah, Casey Tenants, very. But every state has this. For example, I looked up South Dakota, which I consider to be one of the least sort of politically active. But of course, they have the westrivertenants.org. So look in your local area if there's tenants organization, because I got to tell you, I do not think that the rent price problem is going to be solved in the next 4 years.
No, and if you don't have a tenants coalition, at the very least, just start on knock on the door to your left of you if you're in an apartment building, knock on the door to the left of you, knock on the door to the right, and just say, I was upset about the election and I wanted to do something that made me feel good about myself and reach out. And so I decided it was me knock on the door next door. Here's a box of cookies. My name's whatever, fill in your name. And then, know where it goes from there. Like maybe, and one of the things I wanted to talk about was thinking about just signing up for a Google group or something or whatever it is. Don't email me and tell me not to use Google, whatever it is, the technology you use. And talk about, the bug problem that we have, or the fact that the back door is unlocked, or the basement, the garbage smells, or whatever it is. Pick one thing that you think that other people have a problem with, get together and try and fix it. Justcoffee.coop. That's my point. Emma.
On ESPN yesterday, Bradley and I broke down Week 10 in the NFL. The Steelers with that phenomenal game. Daniel Jones probably getting benched. YouTube.com/ESPN show.
Matt, Left Reckoning.
Left Reckoning tonight. Jeff Shirky talking about the labor movement, how the Democrats lost ground with working people, and what they need to do to turn that around. Check that out, patreon.com/Left Reckoning tonight, live 7:00 Eastern Time on YouTube.
All right, folks. See you in the fun half.
3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now. And I don't think it's going to be the same as it looks like in 6 months from now. And I don't know if it's necessarily going to be better 6 months from now than it is 3 months from now. But I think around 18 months out, we're going to look back and go like, wow. What? What is that going on? It's nuts. Wait a second. Hold on for a second.
The Majority Report.
Emma, welcome to the program.
Hey.
Matt.
What is up, everyone?
Nomi Key.
You did it. Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon.
Bradley, you want to say hello?
Sorry to disappoint everyone. I'm just a random guy.
It's all the boys today.
Fundamentally false.
No, I'm sorry.
Stop talking for a second and let me finish.
Where is this coming from, dude?
But dude, you want to smoke this 7A?
Yes.
Hi, me? Is it?
Yes.
Is this me?
Is it me?
It is you.
Is this me? Hello, is this me?
I think it is you. Who is you? No sound. Every single freaking day. What's on your mind?
Sports. We can discuss free markets and we can discuss capitalism.
I'm gonna go throw up.
Who libertarians?
They're so stupid, though.
Common sense says, of course.
Gobbledygook.
We fucking nailed him.
So what's 79 plus 21?
Challenge met.
I'm positively quivering. I believe 96, I want to say.
857-210-35 501 1 half 3 8s
9/11, for instance.
$3,400, $1,900.
5 4 $3 trillion sold. It's a zero-sum game.
Actually, you're making me think less of it.
But let me say this. Poop.
You can call it satire. Sam goes, it's satire.
On top of it all, my favorite part about you is just like every day, all day, like everything you do.
Without a doubt. Hey, buddy, we see you. All right, folks.
It's just the week being weeded out, obviously.
Yeah, sun's out, guns out. I don't know.
But you should know.
People just don't like to entertain ideas anymore.
I have a question. Who cares?